Quiet. I'm hunting warriors. Hey, Tony, what is that door? Where is over me? I know you didn't recognize me, but let me tell you something. I'm hunting warriors because they're nowhere to be found. And I'm going to introduce the #1 hunters in professional wrestling today, the men who destroyed the myth. Loverboy Dennis and beautiful Bobby, the Midnight Express.
It's not the same, but you know, of all the WWE knockoff, since they don't play the originals, that one's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. Look at this long and lean hillbilly.
So why was he calling Manny Fernandez Willie? Any idea?
Hang on a second. No.
Sure. What if I started just calling you the wrong name all the time? Would that work?
It wouldn't bother me. Hey, so I think we're getting ready to turn Manny Fernandez heel.
Well, anytime somebody says you'll never turn on me because that's blood, you know,
it's going to happen.
It's like when they start saying, "Oh, you're my best friend."
Yeah.
You know what's happening.
Because Manny and Rick Rude had a run as the World Tag Team Champs. And I think that's what they're getting ready to do. Because Rick Rude has just arrived, right? We haven't seen that much of him, but he's just arrived. So what do you think of this show so far? It's got about 10 minutes left, 9 minutes left. It's trying to build, obviously the U.S. tag team belts. Jim Cornette doing his Elmer Fudd impersonation, which obviously makes fun of people with speech impediments, which we don't want to do. But so what do you think of the show so far?
It's okay. You know, it's not the best it's not the best world championship wrestling we've seen.
No, but again, this is kind of what world championship wrestling was back then. This was for you to go to the arenas, which obviously they didn't go to. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember. I would fly to Atlanta from Charlotte to do these TV shows. But when I did the Omni, I would drive. Did the Omni ring announcing, I would drive. Many times. Unless there was a TV taping like that morning or something like that, then I would fly. And take that 11:15 Eastern Airlines flight back to Atlanta. Eastern, man, I miss that. I think they resurfaced, but I miss that airline. That was a very good airline.
So this show we're watching was actually taped ahead of time. I think we've sort of laid that out. This was
okay
on the 21st, but of course we know it's going to air on the 27th.
Okay.
As soon as you guys finished this taping on the 21st,
here we go.
You were, as Bobby Eaton comes over, you're going to be in the Asheville, North Carolina Civic Center.
Mm-hmm.
There's also an opportunity for Ric Flair to go down to Puerto Rico. That night, you guys are back in the Coliseum. On top, it's the Rock and Roll Express versus the Andersons. On the 22nd, you're in Greenville. Flair would be in Birmingham working for Continental. You would also do a shot in Saginaw, Michigan. First time I think JCP was there in a while. Another TV taping in Greenwood, South Carolina on the 23rd. Meanwhile, the other crew is running in Lansing, Michigan with the Rock and Rolls and the Midnights and a 2 out of 3 falls match on top. Also on the 23rd, running Cincinnati, Ohio at the Cincinnati Gardens. And then you're down to the Bessemer City High School on September 24th for the Booster Club with Wahoo and Tully on top. You would run the Stadium Arena in Grand Rapids on the 24th, the Township Auditorium in Columbia on the 25th, also Cincinnati Gardens again on the 25th, Norfolk, Virginia on the 26th. Central States is going to have a lot of your talent over here. I mean, it's mostly a JCP show.
Right.
At this point, you've brought all their talent to be part of your deal, and it's mostly the same guys that we're seeing here.
Sure.
The day of this show airing, the 27th, you're actually doing a television taping in Macon, Georgia, with guys like Ole and Arn and Tully. North Surrey High School would get a show in Mount Airy on the 27th.
Oh, Dick Bourne
and Sasha Watley. Yeah, shout out to Dick over at Mid-Atlantic Gateway.
Mm-hmm.
On the 28th, the day after this, you're taping in WTBS, and then you have the big Omni show with whopping 3,000 fans there to crown new United States Tag Team Champions.
Do you get the feeling here, because we know that this was the best year of Jim Crockett Promotions ever?
Sure.
And that's where I watch it. But do you get the feeling that, I don't know if it's Great American Bash and Rock and Roll Express Super Summer Sizzler Tour withdrawal that we're seeing right now? And obviously when you go to Starrcade, that's something big. But you get the feeling now that we are starting to slowly go downhill?
It doesn't feel as hot. You know, it did feel really hot after the Great American Bash, but this does feel like a bit of a lull.
Yes.
But I think it's going to get cranked up in time again for Starrcade. It's just fascinating to me that, and maybe that's part of the strategy. You know, historically, we've heard that summer is not good for the wrestling business because people have other stuff to go do or whatever.
Right.
So maybe that's the reason you run the bash then, to try to counteract that. Hey, if it's our historically slow time, let's put a bunch of focus on it and see if we can strengthen the weakest part of our year, which makes sense.
Right.
But here in, I guess we'd call it the fall, it does just feel like we're going through the motions. And maybe some of that is just because, as we said earlier, nobody really cares about this U.S. Tag Team tournament.
Yeah, that's true. And, you know, and Magnum's going to have his accident here pretty soon. And that's obviously a downer for us. So I don't know. I think probably just, you're right. I think you're right on all counts here. Because Starrcade is big, and it's going to be big with the Night of the Skywalkers coming up. Oh boy.
Gotta listen to this.
He is talking about when they jumped on the Road Warriors. We'll take a look at that videotape about what you did to the Road Warriors in just a second. I know everybody wants to take a look at that videotape. His hand.
Cornette back. The Midnight Express. Hulk goes right after. Avoid this. Look out, look out.
Cornette has come back with a tennis racket.
Look out. Right on the animal. Press referee out. Jason Hulk outside. Cornette. Bobby goes up on the top rope again. He gets ready. To the back. Animal's laying there. Cornette stomping on to see Hawk. And then, again with the racket. And Cornette quickly gets out of there.
Okay, there it was, coming in with the tennis racket after you were slapped down by Paul Eller.
That's the greatest thing I've ever seen, and that's the worst mistake that you ever made, Paul Eller, is putting your filthy hands on me, because all you did was leave yourself open to get your two big precious investments, those boys you made all that money off of. You left yourself open to get them made fools out of right in the middle of the ring by my boys, by the greatest team in professional wrestling. And you know what else you left yourself open for, Paul Eller? You left yourself open if you can drag that big animal, that big ox's carcass back in the ring, or if you get that Hulk who's a coward, who's scared to death, who's shaking in his boots to get back in the ring and get him another partner, or maybe even get in there yourself, Paul Ellering, then what you let yourself open for is getting me right up in your face with the palm of my hand and smacking you silly, because I'm a pretty tough guy in my own right, and I know Dennis and Bobby would agree with that. And the only reason I don't get in the ring myself is because they're so good, it's no point to it. They're the greatest. I couldn't do anything that they couldn't do. But let me tell you something, Paul Ellering. What you've done is you destroyed your own myth. You destroyed your own legend. You should have stayed away from the Midnight Express. You shouldn't have messed with the Midnight Express. You should have never touched me, because what you did then was you blew the whole thing, baby. Now everybody knows the Road Warriors ain't unbeatable. Everybody knows the Road Warriors can be had, because these men had them and they put them down the first time ever. And now what they're going to do, like I said, Tony, is they're going to go back to Chicago, to those slummy streets with all the slime and the filth running in the gutters, and they're going to be just what they were before Precious Paul found them. They're going to be a couple of women's purse snatchers, stealing things from old ladies, knocking them over the head with blunt instruments and taking their Social Security checks, because that's the kind of cowards that they are. And Paul Ellering, you've had it, baby.
We'll see you next week right here on World Championship Wrestling.
Pretty pedestrian episode.
Yeah, I think I like the angle with the Road Warriors and the Midnight Express.
Oh, for sure.
I think looking back at that, Cornette did a great job of making that. He hit him in the back with a racket, but I think he did a good job of pulling it, so to speak. And
I liked seeing him come through doing the old Elmer Fudd. That was funny just for me.
yeah, that was funny. Because listen, if you don't enjoy the old Bugs Bunny, Elmer Fudd, Daffy Duck cartoon, that was, duck season, rabbit season. That's one of the great cartoons of all time. So just saying for you guys. And those cartoons were from I think they're from the 40s or 50s. I'm not sure, even before I was born.
When we come back, though, we're going to have new U.S. tag team champions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to that, man. Just having it behind us, and now we can start building. It feels like we'll start building towards Starrcade after this.
Yeah, and we'll see what the accident to Magnum did for our momentum.
Oh gosh, who could forget? That's going to happen that's going to happen in October. So
right, yeah, so it's coming up.
Few weeks. Oof, things are going to heat up here.
Yeah, some very, very heavy stuff going to happen. But and of course, Manny Fernandez getting ready to turn heel. We're going to unify. I think we're unifying the same night, aren't we? We're unifying the national U.S. belts with Wahoo and Nikita that same night in the Omni. I believe, not sure, can't remember everything, but try to. And this helps me out remembering things.
Well, we hope you remember next week to hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for all that we're doing here on What Happened When. We're having a good time trying to entertain you, trying to make you laugh. Don't forget, tonight, it's perhaps the biggest Dynamite in history. I don't think that's hyperbole. I think this is it, man. You're making your New York City debut. You've got the Arthur Ashe Stadium, which is going to be an unbelievable visual. I think there'll be an ass every 18 inches. And arguably the two best wrestlers in the world, Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson, are going to hook it up in the main event. And the whole lineup tonight, Tony, top to bottom, feels like a damn pay-per-view.
It's we're putting a lot into this. Dr. Britt Baker is going to defend her obviously her tag team belts or AEW women's belt. It's going to be a spectacular night, and I can't wait to be a part of it. Interesting to see exactly how, because I know Arthur Ashe Stadium, from what I hear, the ring area is kind of small, and it's one of those venues that kind of is very steep, goes straight up.
Going to be such a cool visual.
Yeah, it is. It is. Can't wait to be there. Can't wait to be back in New York City. And again, I'll be back there for New York Comic Con as well. So great time, man. It's a great time to be a part of wrestling. I've said it so many times, but it is. It's just, I'm so fortunate to be sitting here talking to you.
But Tony, right now, it feels like we're about that time.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to the ring is David Crockett. He's got a microphone and he's calling Tony Schiavone a salsa thief. And here comes Schiavone out. He's got two jars, but they are empty. What happened to the salsa? Well, it's very apparent that Dave Silva, who eats a lot, has eaten the salsa, that no good son of a motherfucker. We're desperately out of time. We'll see you next week on What Happened When. We come to you Wednesdays on Cumulus, the Cumulus Podcast Network, but Mondays And only on Mondays, we come to you on
Patreon, patreon.com/WHW Monday. And of course, adfreeshows.com.